This past year has been a wild ride for the gaming industry. With the release of the Nintendo Switch 2, the unlimited supply of console price increases, with Xbox topping that chart by a mile, and the release of the Asus ROG Xbox Ally and Ally X. There are teases at what's coming next too, and most recently the very exciting announcement of the Steam Machine and all the other gadgets they got cooking. That's of course not to mention all the developer and studio drama, high-profile releases, and unfortunate flops too. But this isn't an industry update or recap of all that news, it's about what I was playing amidst all of it. As usual, the games are in the order that I completed them, and aren't ranked or rated at all. But if you'd like that, or want those changes made, I could do that for the next one, or I could make a separate video ranking them all. Just let me know in the comments if that's something you're interested in. Now, to not waste any more time, let's get straight into it. To kick off the year, I started with Lil Gator Game, and what a beautiful way to start. I'll be honest, I cried a little bit. It's a deceivingly emotional story about family, friends, growing up, responsibilities, and setting priorities. It was super wholesome, very grounded and relatable, especially if you have siblings. But even if not, there's no doubt a lot of value to be found here. The gameplay itself is incredibly simple, and admittedly shallow, but not necessarily to its detriment. The style of gameplay, as simple as it is all in service of the narrative and context. So even though it's so basic, I believe it was very much effective regardless. And the emotional payoff at the end was such a high that I would find it just about impossible to say the gameplay leading up to it was anything less than worth it. It only took a few hours to beat, and I think I got it on sale for like $7, so really no excuse to not try it. It certainly deserves it. Cuphead is a game I started what feels like ages ago, and just never beat until now. And looking back, I'm so glad I took so long to beat it, and all the breaks that I took with it. I absolutely loved it, but I don't think I could ever play it all start to finish, with nothing else in between to break it up. As someone who has never been particularly good at demanding pattern recognition 2D games like this, it was an extremely punishing experience in total. The multiple breaks I took were admittedly because I quit, because I thought I was so stuck that I hit my limit. But I always ended up coming back to it because once a fight was understood, or even just one certain attack pattern was understood, it quickly became almost trivial and usually easily repeatable. Most bosses felt incredibly difficult for a long time, but once I hit that threshold of recognition and reaction, it was almost easy to finish out the rest, as long as I didn't hesitate or, make a silly, careless mistake. It sits among the most satisfying games I think I've ever played. Aside from my personal enjoyment of it, it ran perfectly on both Steam Deck and Series X, and the Switch actually. I had maybe a handful of hit detection errors, and I know it's easy to blame hitboxes in a game like this, but there were some bosses that I would just play over and over. After I beat the game, I kind of just kept on playing it, which usually I don't do. But anyways, even after beating a single boss for the first time, I would sometimes go back to it and warm up before going to fight the next boss, or I would, just play that one boss over and over again because I really like the fight. So I was, while doing that, able to focus on the specific windows more closely because I wasn't playing to survive anymore. I wasn't playing to progress the game. I was just playing for fun. And I'm certainly not saying that it wasn't fun when I was playing to survive and to progress. I just mean I was able to be more attentive to those additional details or those little specifics. The sunflower's vines that come from the ground, the devil's head when it becomes a spider, and when he stretches his neck like a serpent coming from the side of the screen. Those are just a few of the attacks off the top of my head that I noticed some minor inconsistencies with. There were a few more, but, any fault like that, if they are legit and not just me being crazy, so minimal that I imagine most players wouldn't even notice. Unless they're doing what I did, with repeat playthroughs or repeating bosses over and over again. A more casual playthrough will probably appear to be flawless as far as performance goes. I would talk about more, but I feel like that pretty much sums it up. I mean, everyone knows what the game looks like already with the rubber hose art style, fully hand-drawn art, and everyone who has seen any amount of gameplay knows exactly what it is. You only need to see a snippet to know exactly what the game is going to deliver. The soundtrack is phenomenal. It's one that I regularly listen to long after I beat it. It's just an incredible experience, start to finish. It's really good. I can sing its praises far beyond this, but there are plenty of other reviews that do that, so I'll just wrap it up. It's excellent, a must play, but goodness gracious, you'll need some serious patience. But if you can manage it, if challenging, difficult, very demanding 2D platformers or action platformers are your thing, it's gonna be the bee's knees. Final Fantasy I. What a journey. It was long, demanding, but simple, and certainly representative of the time that it was released, but still impactful and very enjoyable. I played the Pixel Remaster version on the Switch, and it was incredibly user-friendly, with the new quality of life options, like experience multipliers, currency multipliers, auto battle, auto run, and I'll admit I used a lot of those options throughout my playthrough. As someone who has very little experience with turn-based RPGs, and basically no experience with NES RPGs, at least prior to playing this, I was admittedly hesitant and nervous going in the first place, mainly in fear of tedium. I've heard the direction was vague and unclear, and that much of the game was just a stat check grind fest, which I really, really don't like. But with all the quality of life features combined, it was an incredibly simple and enjoyable experience. Being able to turn on auto battle and just grind a few levels at the end of the day was surprisingly enjoyable, and it became relaxing for me. It was like an end of the day ritual for me, and I think it helped me fall asleep too, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I didn't always have auto battle on either, of course. I did still engage with the systems, at least as much as I played passively. I never had auto battle on for any of the bosses or in any of the main dungeons. It was really just grinding in the overworld that I had it on. I did, however, have the experience multiplier on pretty much the whole time. I think I played for 2 or 3 hours and then randomly started scrolling through the settings and discovered the multiplier, turned it on at that point, and never ended up turning it off. Because it didn't change the difficulty or the moment-to-moment gameplay, it just reduced the amount of time spent grinding that was required, which I appreciated a lot. The story is simple in terms of overall plot, but the individual requirements throughout were not always clear. With picking up random items that could seem useless or be easily missed because they're in random chests throughout dungeons that end up being necessary to progress, but also not always giving a significant amount of direction to the player. It really is a game where you have to talk to every single NPC and explore every single room, open every door, every single chest that you find, just in case. Because you never know when something critical to progressing can be sitting right there waiting for you. The beginning has a fair bit of clear and direct instruction, which if you're attentive, you'll gather the type of actions the game will expect of you. But if you're just doing what you're told without thinking ahead, it could be easy to feel lost once that guidance ends. I didn't really have any significant complaints, honestly. It looked beautiful, the art is incredible, and it was clear enough without ever feeling so obtuse that it was unreasonable. Some of the bosses did feel like they were just stat checks. Tiamat and Chaos in particular were insane jumps in numbers to where I made multiple attempts, left to grind some levels, came back and still got it absolutely handed to me. So I had to grind some more, and for Chaos, grinded a lot more, picked up some additional spells too before I finally beat him. And it still took quite a few attempts. He was rough, he was kind of ridiculous. But I thought it was a fitting end, and I think I would have been disappointed if it were any easier, to be honest. It felt just right for me. Finishing it had me really excited to play other games in the genre, and honestly wanting to learn more about the genre too, and games from this time period. I don't think I'll play all the Final Fantasy games, maybe not even all the games on the Pixel Remaster, but one was a surprisingly strong and satisfying experience that definitely has me wanting more, so we'll see. Sea of Stars had me conflicted. I don't remember the last time I was so conflicted by a game, actually. There were very high highs, but extremely low lows too. I loved so much of the story and so much of the gameplay and the encounters, but at the same time, the other half of all those things just felt like filler. Some of the characters felt like they never developed or grew, some of the gameplay felt like it was just to pad the runtime, and some of the encounters felt like they weren't contributing anything other than adding a number to the total tally of unique encounters. The story itself had me absolutely glued for the first half, but as I was getting into the second half, it's like it went on so long I lost track of what I was doing and why. You play as either Valir or Zale, but neither of them are really main characters. They're just the vessels through which everyone else's stories are told. All of the other characters have greater, deeper changes and grow more over the course of the game than either of the playable characters. At some points, the focus derails so far from the primary objectives that main quests feel like side quests, like time wasters, time fillers, to the point where the ending wasn't even that satisfying. It almost felt abrupt, which kind of describes the gameplay too. The puzzles and traversal especially, it felt like they served no purpose other than to take up time. They weren't intricate or particularly satisfying, not for me, just overly simple and like something other than an empty room, because an empty room would be just that. And to be clear, there's nothing wrong with simple, or empty rooms for that matter. But in this case, there were so many of them that it felt like they were just there to have something, anything, between encounters. If you cut all the filler out and streamlined some of the encounters and traversal, I probably would have a significantly higher opinion overall, but all things considered as is, it was just slightly above average for me. It was good, I did have a lot of fun, I enjoyed it, but there were too many flaws sprinkled throughout that just added up so much over the time that it took to beat it that I don't think I could be convinced to give it anything higher. As someone with next to no experience with JRPGs, it felt like the ultimate beginner's game to get into the genre, which I did really like about it, so it is also very unfortunate that there were so many cons. I would still recommend it for a total JRPG beginner like myself, but go in knowing that the experience won't be super deep or complex, and certainly not life-changing or eye-opening in really any way. Stray was absolutely beautiful. I know I've said this many times, but it's another one of those games that is exactly what I'm looking for. It was short, but hit with some serious impact. Taking not even 6 hours to beat, but every second was fantastic. All throughout it, I was asking philosophical questions about things like, what qualifies as life? If a life as we know it ends, but begins as something else, maybe as something we would normally deem artificial, could it still be considered life? Given certain context, when humanity ends as a whole, if what we leave behind is artificial and can carry on without us, how would it? And would it, given the opportunity? And so many more questions that I can't even reasonably list them all, so those are just a few examples. And all while running around as a little orange cat. It made me look at things through a different perspective, and I mean that literally, in such subtle and simple but impactful ways. Like every time I entered a room, my focus went to looking for things to knock off shelves, looking for things to scratch, what the highest things I could jump on were. Such simple, seemingly basic thoughts, but that's the perspective of the cat that you're playing as. And it was oddly satisfying and kind of eye-opening in a weird way. It forces this little perspective shift through what it asks of you and what it expects that made it a unique experience compared to how I would normally play other similar games. Nothing was overly complicated or particularly challenging. It was just a unique and strangely satisfying experience. It was kind of meditative, honestly. Even though most of the actions were simple, there was something enjoyable about just jumping from platform to platform, knocking things down, and things just kind of working out. And I wouldn't even consider this a strict puzzle platformer game either, even though there is a good amount of it. All of that isn't even to mention the story, which, though minimal, was very strong. The few characters you meet along your journey all serve their own role in the greater objective, and even though they're robots, which may or may not have been human at some point, perform completely selfless acts for the greater good, and sometimes just to protect you. It was just relaxing, at least mostly, touching, wholesome, and very down-to-earth in a simplistic but grounded way. Also, I couldn't live with myself if I didn't take a moment to recognize the soundtrack. It's one of those that I have continued to listen to well after completing the game, and each time I hear it, it takes me back. Certain songs take me back to certain rooms, certain objectives, and I can just picture those settings almost perfectly. It's a soundtrack that is strong enough in its own right that I would recommend giving it a listen even if you aren't interested in the game. I absolutely loved it completely, and if you have even the slightest interest in anything I said about it, please play it. I cannot recommend it enough. Ronnie's Climb was a very cute platformer. The entire goal is to win the climbing contest and get to the top of the mountain first. Whoever gets the highest wins, with your friends racing alongside you, challenging you, and encouraging you along the way, but also reminding you about what's really important. All the lovable little critters have something unique to say, from reminding you to stay safe, that winning isn't everything, and that spending and enjoying the time with each other is much more important than getting first place. The simple gameplay was nothing to write home about necessarily, but it functioned perfectly and without any issues, and the story and characters were far more the highlight than the gameplay itself. And with taking less than an hour to complete, it was a very pleasant and wholesome little bite-sized platforming experience. It also has par times listed at the end of every stage, with an in-game timer, and a pretty high number of collectibles along the way, allowing for and encouraging multiple different styles of play. For just a few dollars, all things considered, the package in total is well worth it. Haste was incredible. Beautiful and dangerously addicting. I'm not quite sure how best to label it. It's a not quite auto runner, 3D kind of precision platformer roguelite with a handful of boss fights and an insanely addictive gameplay loop. To put it simply, it's just a really, really good game. I don't know why more people didn't talk about it when it came out. It's fantastic. It's like speedrunning the game. Literally. You play the role of Zoe, an interdimensional messenger who, during one of her deliveries, sees a strange growth, like an infection, spreading over the worlds that she's jumping between, only to then discover that these worlds are in fact falling apart. Initially, you want to find your closest friend, hoping that she's safe and that she'll know what's going on, and as you run to find her through various stages and worlds, all of which are crumbling around you, you'll meet new characters, enemies, allies alike, opportunities to barter, level up, upgrade your skills as well as unlock new ones. Without getting into too much detail, you'll discover that as the universe crumbles around you, various timelines included, you'll come face to face with potential versions of yourself, potential possibilities with potential decisions, and you need to come to terms with what it means to be yourself and have an identity and understand how important that identity is, and find your purpose through the support and help you give to those around you, protecting them, fighting for them, and doing everything in your power to save them from whatever possible fate may be coming. Despite your doubts and the depths and extent of an existential identity crisis, it's a surprisingly beautiful story that unfolds very slowly, but really comes into its own and develops at the very end, sprinkling little breadcrumbs along the way, teasing you as you progress. I think the game could have been maybe a chapter or two shorter, even though the length was already very short, and considering the addictive gameplay loop, I can't really complain. Another detriment was repeated bosses. With only 10 levels, the first 9 of which only had 3 bosses, each of whom are reused 3 times each, with the 10th stage being the final boss. They aren't exclusively copy and pasted though, as they do get more challenging in different ways each time you face them, but regardless, seeing them again, you already know how to beat them for the most part, so some more variety would have been nice. Repetition aside, the game ran wonderfully, buttery smooth with absolutely no performance issues at all. With everything considered and how hooked I was since I started playing it, it's one of the easiest recommendations I can give. As long as you're alright with crazy high speeds and fast-paced gameplay, this is an absolute win. A short death was a pleasant surprise. What I thought was going to be a simple and basic little 3D platformer to pass the time for a couple hours, sort of as a palate cleanser between other games, ended up being a very enjoyable and deep story about overcoming guilt, the repression of memories, and how easy it is to get stuck in your head when you're alone. The story was simple, but I found a lot of value in it, and thought it was quite charming. As far as the actual gameplay went, it was decent. There was a little bit of jank, and it was a pretty straightforward design. Nothing bad or game-breaking in any way, just took a bit to get comfortable and get things lined up sometimes. Also, the camera was really slow, which was a bit annoying. Maybe I missed the option in settings for that? I don't think so. I didn't see anything. I looked for it. But either way, the default camera speed was really slow. It took about an hour and a half to beat and was a really good time from start to finish. If you want a simple 3D platformer with a little more than most, or just a good story in a very short runtime, this will definitely fit the bill. I had never played a Devil May Cry game. Up until this point, I had zero direct experience with the franchise. I'd seen clips and parts of streams and seen some reviews and references throughout YouTube, but never played one myself. So when I got around to Devil May Cry 5, I had no idea what was happening. Didn't really know what to expect and was completely clueless as to the characters, timeline, and setting. Regardless of all that, Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition was awesome. Even though I didn't know any of the things I probably should have going into it, and now having finished 5, I still couldn't tell you pretty much anything about the story, but it was so fun and flashy and over-the-top stylistic action that it was hard to put down. Playing as 3 different characters throughout the story, each with their own unique moveset and abilities, kept things interesting and made it feel like the pace never slowed down. In terms of the action, generally it minded me a lot of Bayonetta. I knew it was a hack and slash or a character action game, or both, whatever you want to call it. I'm not sure actually. So I had at least a semblance of what to expect as far as gameplay, but once I got into it, the depth and variety, even just with one character, kept me trying new combos and moves and loadouts all the way to the end of the game. Then multiply that by 3 for the different characters you'll switch between, and you've got an absolute wealth of experimentation and action waiting for you. I don't want to get too much into detail on all the abilities because each time a new weapon was unlocked or found, it excited me. Knowing I'd be able to experiment that much more with that character, and I don't want to take away from that surprise and experimentation if you plan on trying the game, which I highly recommend you do. I've played all of the Bayonetta franchise so far, but haven't had much other experience in the genre, so take this with a grain of salt or two, but Devil May Cry 5 was absolutely top tier. Looked incredible, played incredible, stellar soundtrack and sound design, and it has more than enough content to keep you invested. Definitely worth checking out, and it goes on sale a lot too. I got it on Xbox for, I think, $10 if I remember right. So if you're on the fence, just hang tight for a sale. It's worth way more than the discounted price, that's for sure. Oblivion Remastered was as close to a perfect remaster as I can imagine. Oblivion's weird, quirky, and goofy charm is held perfectly intact, but the graphics overhaul to Unreal Engine 5 makes it one of the best looking games I've played in recent memory, at least in terms of environments and items. A lot of the people look absolutely absurd, but that's just another part of that Oblivion charm. I can't really say much. I mean, it's really just Oblivion again, but it looks better this time. That's really it. It was fantastic. And for it to be priced only at $40 and shadow dropped the way it was just incredible. I heard so many rumors and there was all this gossip about leaks and whatnot, but I didn't believe any of it. And then all of a sudden, here it is, available now and cheaper than you would have guessed. They absolutely nailed it. This is how a remaster should be done, and if Bethesda is willing and ready to remaster games, then I honestly hope the rest of the games get this treatment as well. I know it's a lot to ask for considering the scale, but a Daggerfall remaster would be next level. Also, since I'm already getting off topic, but this gives me a lot of hope for the next Elder Scrolls installment. I think a lot of fans were left nervous after Starfield, but I feel this is proof that Bethesda still, at least kind of, knows what the fans want, and are aiming to provide that the best they can. I am more excited after this than I was after Starfield for whatever comes next, definitely. Fear the Spotlight to me, as someone who has played their fair share of horror games, seemed like the perfect introduction to the genre. It only took about a few hours to beat, and it was varied enough with consistent enough progression to never feel like it overstayed its welcome. And as simple and short as it was, it still had a good amount to sink your teeth into, with a bit of a conspiracy and mystery to solve about the history of the school that the game takes place in and its employees, and of course the two main characters you play as and their individual backgrounds and motivations, both of which are surprisingly substantial given the short runtime. In just the few short hours of runtime, we get to understand Vivian, the timid and shy bookworm, well-behaved student who is sympathetic and kind, and sometimes eager to impress despite the flaws she sees in herself, and Amy, who is rebellious, maybe a bit lazy when it comes to academics, but means well and is loyal to those around her who have gained and maintained her trust. Amy in particular, through her chapter, gets much more character development and background as well, as we learn she was raised in a troubled home with a cheating father who ended up leaving the family behind to be with someone else, leaving the mother to provide for both Amy and her brother, of which she was mostly unsuccessful but not due to a lack of effort, having to sell their home and relocate to downsize, which meant both kids had to sell a lot of their belongings too. Eventually the father got sick, and when Amy's brother went to visit, died in a car accident. Already angered and uninterested in her father, grew to be so disconnected from him that she didn't even visit him before he passed away. This of course is a very brief overview of the characters, and the story provides so much more, but honestly I don't really want to spoil too much, even though I already gave up a lot, but the story has so much more to offer, and the way it progresses is really good, and I don't want to take that away if you plan on playing it. As far as the gameplay goes, it's pretty typical, not really anything new, nothing revolutionary. You explore a given area, solve puzzles, find hidden items, unlock new areas, and repeat, all while avoiding enemies and experience other encounters throughout. In my opinion, it wasn't all that scary, at least in the way most players probably associate horror games. No jump scares here, not really at least. It was all much more subtle, and the horror is more in the subject matter than anything else, which again I don't really want to spoil. With that said, I highly recommend it. The game takes about 3 hours and is split into 2 chapters, one for each of the main characters, so I kind of treated it like 2 movies, a part 1 and part 2 of the same story, even though the individual chapters are very different from each other. I highly recommend, whether new to the genre or not, it's got more than enough story, horror, atmosphere, and character to keep you invested. Victory Heat Rally is a game I played the demo for I think a year ago during the last Steam Next Fest, and I had so much fun playing the demo that as soon as a physical release was announced, I was ready for it. Pre-ordered it immediately. Took ages for production and distribution, so I was extremely late to the party, but it was still well worth the wait. It's so fun, addicting, packed full of adrenaline, even if sometimes incredibly frustrating. It's retro arcade racing glory, but amped up to 11, with multiple race types, game modes, characters to unlock, cars to customize. It's an absolute blast to play, and gets my heart pounding in the best way. It's pretty quick to beat too, about 5 or 6 hours, but the replayability with all the cars, characters, and customizing is more than enough to extend that runtime. Plenty of fun in store with this one. I don't even know where to begin when talking about Atelier Yumiya, and even when writing and reworking this script, I couldn't collect or organize my thoughts in a way that I felt did it complete justice, so I apologize if I'm bouncing around between ideas. When I started and finished it, it was the first and only Atelier game I've ever played. I started it through the demo too. I heard of the franchise before, mainly because the insane hype surrounding the Ryza trilogy, but never tried it until now for some reason. Even though I really wanted to, I just never did. Whatever caused me to wait back then, I'm so glad I did, because I couldn't be happier saying that Yumiya was my introduction to the series. Not only that, but being able to play it on Xbox was fantastic. The first and only game in the whole franchise to be released on Xbox, at least so far. I had watched a lot of videos prior to even playing the demo for Yumiya, videos covering the Atelier franchise generally, where to start, games ranked, story analysis, performance on different systems. For some reason, I went into it with a lot of hesitation, and felt like I needed to do my research. Nothing spoiling anything from Yumiya, of course, and that was all before even playing the demo. One of the videos I watched, and I wish that I remembered what video it was and who made it so I could give them credit, but they described the Atelier games or at least compared them to watching an anime, with some action, some drama, all the different characters getting their own time to shine, and some slice of life sections too. And after I heard that, something just clicked in my head that gave me the comfort to jump in. I've always been intimidated by longer runtimes in games for some reason. When I see a game takes 30 plus hours to beat, part of me always thinks, that's too long, I'm gonna get burned out, I'll lose interest, and then it'll just be a waste. But when it was described like an anime, it just made perfect sense all of a sudden. I could easily binge watch a multiple season anime and think nothing of it. So playing a game shouldn't be any different, right? With that in mind, I got the demo and was sold pretty much immediately. I got a physical copy for it on Xbox and was obsessed all the way through. I played it as much as I could without letting myself lose too much sleep, which is a rule I definitely broke on more than a handful of occasions, but it was well worth it. The world was big and beautiful and always seemed to have more unique offerings waiting around the corner with different biomes, traversal options, enemies, side quests, items, crafting ingredients. It just kept on expanding. The characters were relatable, well written, their motivations were clear, and the dialogue, even though there was some stereotypical anime cringe sprinkled throughout, it was fantastic, and they had me completely absorbed. Yumiya just might be one of my favorite characters in a game of all time. They were grounded, realistic. Even though the setting was very fantastical, they made it feel real. They had me immersed and connected and invested. I could give the same sentiments to the overall story itself too. It had my head full of questions regarding philosophy, history, psychology, religion. Basically all the big hitters were in full swing all throughout. It was inspiring, fuel for thought and discussion. And the gameplay was solid overall too. The combat was confusing at first, felt limited and almost too narrow, but as I got into the synthesis and crafting, it opened up much more and I had a lot more enjoyment once I had better gear and items and abilities. The synthesis itself, I grew to understand maybe only slightly. It seemed overly complex, or maybe just overly dense is a better word. It was understandable, but took so long to get one higher level item that it became a deterrent, and I just resorted to autosynthesis probably 95% of the time. The world and exploration was great, but for those who prefer more freedom in exploration, probably won't like it. It's closer to that Ubisoft stereotype where everything of value has an exclamation point on it, and you can pull up a guiding light that shows you exactly where to go and how to get there from wherever you are. So depending on how much you want to pay attention to that stuff, you can pretty much have your hand held start to finish to levels that are probably excessive for most. I didn't mind. I didn't really use the guide or anything like that, and I was getting distracted by all the encounters on the way to the markers anyways, so it didn't really bother me. It never really felt like a checklist, I guess. I've heard a lot of criticism regarding the leveling too, or the speed of leveling, but I never felt it was too fast. I didn't really grind and I didn't do everything in every area before progressing to the next. I was playing mostly focused on the main story, only doing whatever I ran into while on my way to where I needed to go next. So I always felt like whatever area I entered next was an appropriate amount of challenge. I also completely failed to utilize the skill tree for like the first half of the game, so my gear was severely underleveled, which also could have contributed to that. I don't know if this is impressive or not, but when I beat Corleones, I only had starting level gear. I hadn't done any substantial synthesis up to that point, and didn't start engaging with it really until after that fight. The fight took me absolutely ages to beat. It felt like I was doing a soul level 1 run in Dark Souls. I don't know why or how I did that to myself, and I hated it the whole time, but after I finally beat him, it felt fantastic. Never gonna do that again though. So after that fight, I dived into synthesis completely. I still didn't want to over level myself though either. I never made any S rank gear, so I know that I wasn't overpowered by any means. And it all felt really good and fair. The final boss was a serious challenge, but very rewarding. Speaking of rewarding, and going back to story, I literally cried multiple times throughout this game. Some of these cutscenes just cut deep. The closing, the end scene of this game Oh man, it hit so hard. I loved this game. Absolutely adored it. Anyone who is interested in anime, emotional, heavy storytelling wrapped in a light fantasy setting, you will go crazy for it. It was incredible and easily a new favorite of mine. Princess Peach Showtime was definitely a kid's game. It was super basic, but certainly not lacking any charm. The variety of level designs and abilities kept expanding all the way to the very end of the game, even though a lot of the mechanics were kind of shallow or introductory, certainly lacking any serious complexity, but not necessarily to the extent that it was a detriment to the overall experience, as the charm and variety in gameplay made up for it plenty. It was enjoyable even though it was easy, and with plenty of collectibles and post-game content, there's more than enough to keep satisfied and to justify the price of admission. Still coming off the high from Atelier Yumiya, which was a huge game for me in terms of influence, borderline obsession, and perspective-shifting story. To follow it up, what do? I play something just as thought-provoking, challenging, and addictive. Clair Obscur, Expedition 33. I cannot recall another game that had such an immediately powerful hook in the way that this did. Nor can I recall another game that had me so insanely obsessed so fast. After finishing it and while playing it, I took probably a million notes, and honestly, I cannot read any of them. I will not read any of them because all I can say is this is one of the greatest games that has ever been made. Simple as that. And I am making this video before the Game of the Year awards. If it does not win Game of the Year, that is just a crime against humanity. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. And this game is beyond words. It is so good. It's beautiful. It's an incredible experience. If you have not played it, you absolutely need to. No questions, no hesitation. Just do it. Stop this video, turn it off, go play it, please. Usually for games that I really like, I talk about for longer than all the other games, but this somehow surpasses that. I have no words, basically. I'm speechless even just thinking about it. Again, just go play it. Lies of P was formidable, very satisfying, stylistically gorgeous, and excruciatingly intriguing. I loved the simpler, more streamlined level design, which made me think of Dark Souls 3 with how linear it was compared to the other games in the series, and with having fast travel right from the get-go too. Made things very straightforward and feel like I was constantly progressing. The combat was punishing and brutal, and I'm as good as useless when it comes to parries for the most part. So my gameplay experience, at least as far as bosses go, was pretty much managing my guard regain and struggling to make my pulse charges last as long as possible. Basically just a constant test of patience and positioning. The rest of the exploration was overall pretty solid, comfortable enough for the most part with some real solid shortcuts, although towards the end mob density started feeling a little too high when considering the types of some of the enemies, to the point where I just started running by some to get to the next shortcut first. It wasn't so bad that I felt it was unfair or poorly designed, just a little extra. The primary issue I had with combat, just in general, was the over-aggression of some of the enemies, to the point where it felt like you never got a turn. And for someone not good at parries to earn those staggers, it was just that much more brutal. The character, enemy, and world design was all great. The world was beautiful with its own special blend of gothic horror influences, although the gray and dark tone of everything and simplicity of some of the locations made it feel just a little bit repetitive, almost stale in a few spots. The story, though, had just enough for me to know what was going on, but too many lines blatantly explaining what philosophical questions could be directed at the game and setting, but also just enough vague suggestion to keep me confused and wanting to look up story explanation videos. It was a weird blend of just enough, not enough, and too much, all in different categories. It's kind of hard to explain. I'm probably not doing a very good job. But in the end, I had a really solid time and consistently positive experience that gets an easy recommend from me towards most players. Easy suggestion for any Souls enjoyer, which doesn't even need to be said at this point, but I also think it's a game a lot of non-Souls players could enjoy too. Certainly not for everyone though. I guess I was on a bit of a Souls kick as I went from Lies of P straight to Wuchang Fallen Feathers, and it was an incredibly satisfying experience. From the combat to leveling to exploration and the story, just all of it. It was fantastic, really. The beginning is absolutely brutal, feeling like if an enemy looks at you the wrong way, it'll all be over. But you level so quickly at the start, and the progression is so smooth and feels natural and open, with being able to respec anytime you want, as many times as you want, at no cost, is an amazing design choice that I very much appreciate. And even though you basically have unlimited freedom when it comes to leveling, I was extremely stubborn. I only used spears for my entire run-through, and pretty much my entire second run-through, because I played the game twice, because I liked it that much. It was incredible. 2 spears and 2 spells, to be exact. I used the red tasseled spear until I found the Cloud Burster, and the Vorpal Blade and the Burst of Flame spells, which are very early spells that you get in the game. I wanted to limit myself and focus on mastering the spear moveset and use as little magic as possible, just to challenge myself that much more, and focus as much as I could on the physical combat. I didn't want to get stuck relying too much on ranged attacks or anything like that, and doing so gave me an incredibly rewarding experience. In Lies of P, the combat was built around blocks and parries, and Wuchang, when using the spear, was pretty much the complete opposite. It was all about perfectly timed dodges. There is a parry system called Clash, which is when your attacks are timed at the same time as an enemy's, but I never really understood it or intentionally tried doing it. Any clashes that I did land were honestly accidental and pure chance, and I don't think I landed very many anyways. I was solely focused on dodging, and I loved it. It's how I usually play Souls games, since I tend to avoid shields and blocking, relying solely on dodges, and here in Wuchang, it's basically the primary intended style of play. On top of that, the pace was really fast, very reactive, very intentional, but never so fast that it felt impossible or unreasonable. The telegraphs, some more subtle than others, were all clear enough and readable, which made for some really tight and precise windows of opportunity, and the learning curve was great. So many of the bosses started with my first attempt or two, landing less than 3 attacks and dying almost instantly, feeling like it would be impossible. And all of a sudden, a handful of attempts later, a quarter of their health bar is gone, and I'm seeing all the windows, slowly learning and mastering the rhythm. I know that describes pretty much every Souls-like ever, but the flow of combat in Wuchang was just so smooth. I've heard a lot of players describe these types of boss fights like dances, and I have never felt that more than here. I actually wouldn't describe any other Souls-like game that way, at least for me, for myself. I've never felt that in a game. It always felt almost turn-based, real-time turn-based, but Wuchang, it felt like a dance. The fluidity and speed of each movement and step, it was honestly beautiful. I feel like I could talk about this game for an hour, and there's so much more to talk about, like armor alteration, the skill tree, madness system, inner demons, the way locations change as you progress the story, characters, mythology, folklore, the level and area design, which has some insanely satisfying shortcuts, and areas where I would just stop and enjoy the scenery. Over and over, all throughout the game. Too good, honestly. If I hadn't played Clair Obscur Expedition 33 this year, Wuchang would be my game of the year. Easily. LEGO Voyagers was a great experience. It was a lot like It Takes Two in that it's a strictly co-op experience and entirely dependent on collaboration and communication. It was simple and nothing groundbreaking, but it was enjoyable start to finish. It also had really powerful storytelling in my opinion. No actual words are spoken, and if I remember correctly, there is no text in-game either. Not counting menus, of course. But the themes come through loud and clear nonetheless, and I found it very powerful. To me, it was about going on adventures with those close to you, family specifically, in my opinion, and then growing up and eventually going on adventures of your own. Or, for the other side, going on adventures and seeing your family grow, and eventually leave to experience life on their own. It made me think of my dad, and to be totally honest, it made me cry a little bit. It made me think of when I first moved away from home, and family, and it brought back those feelings when saying goodbye and that almost necessary sadness of leaving when you know you have to, but don't entirely want to either. It's just part of growing up. And growing up is just another part of life. And the game kind of felt like a little microcosm of life in a way. Things starting small and simple, encountering frustrations, challenges, and confusion along journeys that you don't always understand. Growing up and learning, making sense of the things around you, and eventually departing. It was a beautiful game, and I think it deserves more attention than it has received. If you have a kid or a parent, or even a partner to play with, I think it could make for great bonding time. And it's still a plenty fun time, even if you don't get the emotional weight that I did from it. It's one of those games that I feel like needs a standalone video on it as well. So I am considering making a video covering LEGO Voyagers in much more depth, talking more about the symbolism and the imagery that they use to kind of go on a more deep dive in it. So if you're interested in something like that, let me know in the comments. With the end of the year comes a lot of things. One of those is irresistible Black Friday deals. So with that, I picked up a PS5 Pro. Having been deeply ingrained in the Xbox ecosystem since the 360, and having dived in headfirst to the Switch, I was basically oblivious to all things PlayStation other than a handful of exclusives. One that I was not aware of at the time I got the console was Astro's Playroom, which I don't even know if it really counts as an exclusive since it just comes on the console and isn't really a game that you can decide whether or not to get, so maybe it's in its own category. Regardless, it was a very welcome surprise and had me extremely impressed, more so in the DualSense controller than anything else, with the adaptive triggers, touchpad, extremely responsive gyro controls, and breath sensor or whatever it's called. It was a totally unique experience for me, even if it amounted to basically a controller tutorial and console introduction. It was fantastic. Even without the controller experience, it was still a solid little 3D platformer that took me back to the days of Ratchet & Clank, Sly Cooper, and Jak and Daxter on the PS2, which was my first console. For a free little tech demo that came with the console, it was packed full of content too. With an about 3-hour runtime, collectibles in every level, a plethora of unlockables, and speedrun challenges. It really packed a punch and was an excellent introduction to the console. And that will do it for the games that I finished in 2025. I played a lot less games compared to the last couple years, but ended up spending much more time with each game, which is exactly what I wanted to do. I'm trying to game more intentionally and treat gaming less like a task to complete and more like what it should be. A fun way to pass time and get immersed into a world and story and just enjoy the ride. I hope you had some fun and memorable adventures this year, and if you did, I'd love to hear about them in the comments. Let me know what your favorite game was that you played this year, and any recommendations if you have any too, because I'm always excited to try something new. Anyways, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I really hope you enjoyed. As always, stay happy, stay healthy, and I hope to see you next time.